just wanted to take a minute to talk about how I managed to deal with the project of overhauling a jet ski with so many parts involved, and how I keep track of all of the different parts from different suppliers and different dealers and so on and so forth. So let's jump right into it. If you are doing a major restoration project, I would actually suggest you do what I did, and that is print out the parts diagrams for the jet ski. You can see the likes of this. I've actually highlighted on the diagrams in yellow what I needed to buy, what I needed to replace. There's many benefits to this. First off, I can go through my parts diagram and I can basically see every part I've replaced on the ski since I've had it. The other useful thing is I can talk to my Yamaha dealer on the phone and I can reference the number on the diagram that they're also looking at. Now, every part does have a part number also, we'll get to that, but it's pretty easy to say I'm looking for a number 9, there's 4 of those, is that available? It's much quicker than having to quote really long numbers. So this is just a really invaluable thing to have. So for this example, I'm working on the jet pump unit in this video. I kind of highlight the bits I realized I needed, and I had to then go and source them online. There's actually more pieces here to highlight still, but the point is it was really easy to know exactly what I was looking at versus just looking at the parts on the bench and trying to work it out from there. So another cool mod I'm doing, which I recommend you also do, is pick up a 3/4 inch ABS tap, and I put on 1/2 inch nozzles on the end which screw on. This is an ABS tap, meaning it's super corrosion resistant. And what I'm doing is I'm actually just fitting this in line from the transom plate, which goes up on the water cooling line. This means that if you're ever broken down at sea and you're towed by another boat, the high speed towing above 6 knots won't drive water up this pipe and into your engine, flooding it slowly from the exhaust, cooling up, wrecking your jet ski.
I have now painstakingly refitted the pipe, the inlet cooling pipe with the tap. So that goes on the bottom of the transom plate, and then this top one, this is the bilge pump. So now, if I'm being towed, I can just switch this like that, and I can block off the water that can come in from the intake grate to the engine. And to switch it back on, it's like that. Now it's very important if you install one of these, you don't forget which orientation it needs to be for running. And for that reason, I might put like a couple upgrades. We now have the key start and the toe tap. So I'm very happy with that.
So the stainless steel billet wearing is on, and at the moment the bolts are just hand tight, but I've just fitted this one, and that's 40 Newton meters of torque. You want to be using Loctite 572 in the Yamaha manual, which is the same as the stuff I've been using all along. It's actually the same ingredients as this pipe thread seal. It's a flexible Loctite essentially. And I'm changing 2 bolts to new, the others are all good. So we're just going to wind them in hand tight, and then right under the head when they're half wound in, I'm just putting a bit of dielectric grease to fill the gap, as there is a section with no thread and I want that filled with grease. So I'm torquing the opposites first and then the other opposites. So always torque in opposite direction. This small bolt on the left-hand side, I'm just putting the same thread seal on, and she's going in, and this is going to be torqued to just 6.8 Newton meters. So it's just a baby. So we're just going to open these 3 bolts. They just open anti-clockwise. This pops off, there's an O-ring. We're going to give that a good clean and it will get more grease. And this is the section which we're going to clamp in the vise. Bearings feel good, so.
This is a special tool you will require. This is the Yamaha specific impeller tool. What it does is it just mimics the splines of the drive shaft, and it'll slot right in there. And we're going to use a spanner to open that.
Yes.
So it's counterclockwise to undo the impeller. I've never done it on this, so it might be super stiff. Let's have a go. Okay, we're going to try the impact gun because just to give it a little assistance. That worked a charm. My favorite tool. Nice. Looks to be in good condition. The seals are in perfect condition. It doesn't look like there's been any leakage or rust or any issues. Make no noise. So I'm checking for up and down play, checking for any grinding noises. Sounds perfect. The grease also tells us a lot. You know, if that was like condensed milk, as Vinny said, then we'd be worried that water has got into it and it's contaminated, but the grease looks really good. And the seal looks really intact and there's been no leakage, so I'm happy with that. The next thing I'm checking is the condition of these threads. I'm just going to dry fit the new impeller and see, and then we're going to follow the procedure to put it on properly. So this is the old impeller. It's not that badly damaged, and I will keep it as a spare. It just had some slight grinding on the tips and it could probably be refurbished, but since I'm making all of this effort, I am going to switch it out.
That's the new impeller.
For a nice Solas stainless impeller. This is really nice. It's the Concord, and I think this will be perfect with the new stainless wearing. It'll last a long time. So just looking at this, I can see one of the differences is that the overlap between the top and the bottom surfaces on the old one is not a very big gap, but on the new one you can quite easily see there's a much larger overlap in this gap here. I believe this new impeller is rated for a slightly higher acceleration. I'm not sure how it'll affect top speed, but the top speed of my ski has been affected for a while by this grinding issue. So just having a new one at all will probably make the ski feel a lot better. So for replacing the new impeller, I've just done a dry fit. The thread feels perfect, it screws on nicely, and it undid very easily. So we're going to be putting Loctite 572 on. I'm going to be quite generous with this, but I'm going to make sure none of it spills down on the bottom. And now we're going to take the new impeller and fit it. It screws on clockwise. It should go on easily. If there's an issue and it feels rough or you have to get the wrench out, stop, because you might be cross-threading it. Nice. This will be hand tightened to 75 Newton meters. Be very careful not to cut your hands trying to tighten it. Get the wrench. Same tool as before, slot that in, and we're going clockwise this time. Obviously 75 Newton meters, I've got it set on the dial. I'm going to just gently increase the torque. I don't know if my bench can handle this, but there we go. That actually wasn't too bad. Don't forget this small rubber nozzle in the box which goes on the tip of it. It's like an O-ring, so never put an O-ring in dry. Just want to get that hooked up. Nice. The other thing I will recommend is to put some grease in there, probably about that much, which will go onto the splines. So when the impeller shaft goes in, it will be nice and water resistant. Now we're going to put our tool back in there, just temporarily, because it gives us a great fixture point for clamping it in the vise and dealing with the other side again without damaging our impeller. So this grease was really good. I'm going to reuse the same grease. I'm just going to add a little bit more. I'll just give this edge, this rim, a little clean first before I clamp it. So there'll be a good seal. And I just rotate it into place to make sure the O-ring is happy. It doesn't want to stay down because obviously there's air trapped in there. You're pressurizing the air. That's okay. So these 3 bolts, Loctite 572 on these also. Same as everything else really. Now we're just going to pop them in. Just roughly get them located. Just going to press that down and I'm going to tension the bolts to hold it in place. Up to 7.8 Newton meters. Perfect. Now I'm just going to give the outside a small wipe, just in case anything's squeezed out. So that's our impeller ready to go. Now we're going to work on the water intake strainer side. So this is the pump strainer. This is the cover, which allows water to be pushed through this side and out of this hole to cool the whole engine. As you can see, it's pretty rough. It needs to clean up, so I'll get to that now. And I'm replacing these 2 O-rings with brand new ones. We're going to reassemble the intake grate. What we're going to do is get some dielectric grease. I've given it all a really good clean as well because, you know, it was super crusty. Really be generous with the grease, you know. That's what makes the O-rings work really well. First O-ring, straight on there. Grease it up. That is going behind here. Just like that. Get a bit more grease. Second O-ring is going to go into this groove. So plenty of grease in here too. So nicely sandwiched. You'll notice something. This hole on this side is the same as this hole on this side. So don't worry about which way it goes, because down here, there's only one way the water can come out, and that's on this side. The other side's blanked off. So this is now going to slide in, just like that. And of course, following the manual's instructions, we're going to be using more Loctite 572 on these bolts. It's super important to use Loctite around the jet pump because it's such a high vibration area, and everything will work its way loose over time if you don't do it. .6 Newton meters on each of these. Perfect. So the way this works is the water comes past here and the high pressure is forced through that grate, which filters any of the bigger stuff. You can see in there. And then it comes out of this hole here. This then goes through the wearing system
and up the pipe into the cooling system of the whole engine. So it's really important that this is clear and well sealed. So here I'm just greasing around the lip, which will make it seal nicely, prevent any salt water getting stuck in there, preventing unwanted corrosion, and it'll also help it slide in easier when fitting. Okay, now I'm going to fit the impeller unit. So you want to line up the two alignment pins, and obviously this piece, there's a hole there which aligns there, so don't put a bolt in there by mistake. And what we want to try and do is see, will she slot? That went on so easily. So you might find that the rotation of your impeller is not quite aligned to the shaft, and you just have to turn it, but that was perfect. Honestly, I'm pretty surprised. Same again for this one, Loctite 572 on these bolts. Okay, we have to fit this final jet nozzle on the back before we can put the bolts on. I gave a little cleaner on these, but I'm just going to give it a little bit of dielectric grease again. I love this stuff. Just helps everything go together, prevents any seawater getting stuck inside. So this goes on, spring on the left. You can see here, this pipe is a little scoop. That's what creates the rooster tail jet out the back. And this pipe here, which is right in the center of the venturi, creates a huge amount of suction that way, and that's your bilge pump. So that's going to be pumping the water out of the ski. It's fairly loose fit, I'm surprised actually. But yeah. So now we're going to take the two bolts out the top, and then we can align this up, which also has to be fitted in place. On a lot of skis, you're going to see a rubber flange around here. My ski doesn't have it. I didn't take it off, but it actually does make it easier for cleaning out around the jet pump unit with a power washer. So I'd recommend that you remove the rubber flange and leave it off, because otherwise it can trap a lot of water in there, salt water, when you're washing down your ski. Down the top two bolts, and we're just going to put a bit of thread lock on them so they don't come off. And I'm not going to do them up right away. I'm just going to fit these and get the alignment right on the main jet pump. Perfect, that's 40 Newton meters on all four. And I'm just going to tighten up the top ones now to hand tight. They don't need to be crazy tight. Yeah. So one of the reasons this whole build has been massively delayed is because when I got to the final point, I realized that this old cable was really rough. So I ordered a new cable. It's, as far as I know, it's never had a replacement cable, and this is super smooth. So I'm just going to fit this now. It's very simple. Basically, keep the ball end, this end, with the bolt on it at the back. I'm just going to feed the other piece through there, just like that. I'm going to run this up inside the hull, and I'm going to fit this as it should be fitted normally. I'm not going to include this as a tutorial in this video. Okay, so I fitted the cable onto the steering assembly up at the top, and it's threaded through. I'm going to use a bit more of the 5200 FC sealant, and I'm just going to bring this out onto my finger. We don't need a ton of it, but I am going to seal around this lip, because I want to make sure she's really watertight. And this cable is not going to be taken out for a while. I think that's good enough. Now I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to screw it in from the back. So the next step is to put the back plates on for the ride plate underneath. And I've already put some Loctite 572 on it. and they're going to be torqued to 17 Newton meters. So the key now is just to get the sealant nicely around this and press them down from the inside of the hull into the right locations. Then we're going to lift the plate from below and start screwing. So there's this little rim here which will align into the holes inside. I'm going to fit the other one, and I have actually, just to note, I have cleaned it with alcohol beforehand. You can see now that the sealant is perfectly formed around the inside of the hole and ready to fit the ride plate. So very important not to forget to add the bilge pump cable before you add the ride plate on the bottom. Otherwise it will be very awkward to get in there and attach that Jubilee at the back. So that just snakes up from the back across the center and it pops onto this piece here. And then another stainless Jubilee to go on there. So now the bilge pump pipe is fitted in place. You can see this is the suction line inside and it goes all the way to the back to here. I don't think I can pull focus, but now we're going to just place this up and we're going to fit the ride plate here. So for this is 17 Newton meters. I'm going to do them diagonally. Each of these is torqued to 3.7 Newton meters, which is light hand tight. One other thing I'm fitting is a 1/2 inch tap with an extra piece of hose to join from the outlet. This is for the Rooster tail on the jet pump up here to spray on top. This has been disconnected on my ski for a long time and I would like to reconnect it, but I would have the option to turn it off with this tap so it doesn't always have to be on. So this is a little, you know, tip you can do yourself. You can get a tap like this. Now this probably won't last long. This is just kind of a trial run. If it does work and I like it, I'll get an ABS tap as well. So let's fit that. So that's it now fitted. I've just put a zip tie there to support it because this is the thinner original hose which doesn't have the strength to support the weight of the tap so easily. Just so you can see there. So I'll test drive this and see how it is. And if it's good, then I can make it better. Or it's probably fine even for a year or so until the corrosion kicks in and kills that tap. So just looking in the engine bay now, on the transom plate we have pretty much everything attached except just one outflow line. And that's this one here. So this is the one I'm going to be putting on today. You can see the new steering line is in place, the cable. And yesterday the two brackets went on perfectly, the sealant's all set. This is thrust reverser, this is your water intake pipe, and this one is the bilge pump. Another part I'm going to be replacing, which might not look too bad, is this exhaust ring. You can see there's actually chunks missing from the corrosion there. So I'm replacing this with a new one, not because it isn't functional, but because a new one I believe will have a better seal, and like I've had a lot of water leaking issues, so I really want the seal to be perfectly intact on this. It's now time to fit the beautiful
straight pipe exhaust modified. I'm just going to double check the tension on all of these. I am putting double clamps on them because of the angles and the pressure on the angles. And yeah, we're just going to put on our clamp ring now. So you just compress the rubber and push it through. On this side, there's a small notch. I don't know if I can pull focus on that. Small notch here, and on the other side. Small notch here, just on the metal. You have to line these up with the rubber notch as well, and then it will go together properly. Then this goes on. And this is going to be 5.4 Newton meters. They're the studs which go onto the back of those pins. So I actually had great difficulty getting this into place. So I undid this part and I've loosened these, and the plan is just to bolt this in first and then fit this. I've also loosened this so we can get the right angle then. These nuts are really hard to get at, so if you have an air I recommend it. Okay, that was really quite tricky to fit. I fitted this part first, then I fitted this, and then I tightened everything up afterwards. I am very confident that it's on well. Everything has double clamps, as you can see. And just to revisit some of the pros and cons of this, I mean, the only con is that it's probably a little bit louder, but I really don't think it's going to be much louder, but there's a lot of pros. You can have access to this space all the time, which is really useful for getting out water out of the bilge. Obviously for me, checking this area, given I've had the crack, I've got a special key mechanism here which I fitted, which is super easy to turn the ski on and off with. And now I can remove that, and there's all this space in here. And down there you can see, if you're being towed, it's very easy now to turn off the water intake cooling pipe to make sure no water gets in your exhaust. So very happy with how it's turned out inside. Got way more space in my ski, and she's almost ready to test. So we're going to be putting the jet nozzle on now, and what I've done is I've just put Loctite into the threads there and here, and I've greased around the base of the threads with dielectric grease on these, so we can fit that now. So we're just going to be putting some blue Loctite on this and tightening it in from above. So what I've actually done here is I unwound this and I added an extra nut from my old cable. And it means it's just easier for locking two nuts together to then unwind this, or locking one nut off the back here and giving it a bit of extra security. Just make sure you add loads and loads of dielectric grease on this shaft so that it keeps it in good nick, and all over the ball end too. So just for the thrust reverser, same thing again, red Loctite, and then put grease all around these, waterproof dielectric grease. And I'm just screwing them in, 15 Newton meters on each side. So I just had to turn the rotation of the tap so that when the thrust reverser is up, it doesn't touch the tap. And now it's all good. To fit this mechanism, you just have to slide back the collar, which is there, and it just clips on. Make sure you use plenty of grease in that area. Last but not least, the spring. The spring just clips from the bottom piece onto this mount here. Now we just have to test it with the thrust reverse handle.
hope that helped you. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, please subscribe, hit the like button. If this has helped you build your jet pump or learn anything about your ski, please let me know in the comments. I love hearing feedback.
That sucks a cool video, bro. Fuck!